All right, I call this meeting to order. Please rise to the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, welcome to our July meeting. It's good to see you guys. All right, do we have additions or deletions to the agenda? Nope. Okay, public comment or agenda consent items? Nope. Guest reports, are we, Chris?
Yeah, we have Skillman here tonight and or Jason to give us an update on summer construction.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. Sorry, it's not a formal one with a presentation. We had a few folks out on vacation, so I'd like to just touch on middle school lighting, high school lighting, fire alarm, and the natatorium, if I may. All right. So at the middle school, we're half done with lighting in the classrooms, and it's the same for the high school. We're going to focus in on the classrooms, get that done, get education starting, and then once school starts, there are going to be some items that are going to be done during passing periods and really hit on like holidays, fall break, Christmas break, and then be done at Christmas break. If you recall at the middle school that we did last year, there was some of that where the contractors are adequate and they know like, hey, the bell's going to ring, so they take their lights, scaffolding, whatever, tuck away in a room, and they come back out and work and do the corridors. That is both at the high school and middle school. Fire alarm will be done though, 100%, before school starts at all locations, middle school and high school. All the lighting is in, so there's no procurement issues, so we're good there. Any specific questions on the lighting and fire alarm?
I think it's good to remind people that we moved forward with the LED lighting at both middle and intermediate middle high school.
Yep.
They were the only schools remaining that were not LED. We know that we've got an electric increase by NIPSCO, and this is one of the ways that the district is addressing that particular issue. And I think the second question or just comment, Skillman does apply for any kind of rebate that we would get for installation of LED lighting, and I think you reported out at the last meeting.
Yeah, there was a dollar amount issued. We work very close with TRC, who is a consultant to NIPSCO, if you will. And we get into all the engineering calc things of per fixture, the output. I could go on and on and on a formula that's spits out a cost that is a check to Tri-Creek District.
And I believe at the estimates, we would get our return on investment back in approximately 3 to 6 years, I believe, if memory serves me right.
You are correct.
If I could also add to the maintenance and grounds crew are following behind Skillman and painting rooms, specifically here at the high school. So they are going through, and so classrooms are getting a full refresh. They're going to look quite different when teachers enter.
The middle school, some of the floors are already polished and ready to go. So it's looking, we're going right behind them. And as they tell us classrooms are done, tagging in right behind them and getting our stuff.
I saw the intermediate school made a post thanking the custodians and work, and it was a very shiny floor.
Yeah, so they're working hard, and it's going fairly easy compared to some of the projects we've done in the past.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That was the last line item here. You stole my thunder a little bit. The district has been doing great. We normally have like issues where, hey, we need those 5 rooms, hurry up. A week goes by. Electrician says, hey, we need those 5 rooms, so thank you. It's making our jobs a lot easier.
Speaking of intermediate middle school, Jason, can I put you on the spot for a moment to talk about the canopy areas and the bird issue and what?
Why don't you come on up?
Oh, lovely.
You can tag
You know I like to hide,
tag
right?
Chris out of his.
So if you look above door 1 and door 5, there's the canopies that they look nice, but if you look closer up on the top, there's a square spot that a lot of the birds like to land on. And we've been trying to cure this bird issue for at least 2 years, if not longer.
If Nate were here, I'm sure he'd say it was a
yeah,
problem when
yeah,
he
it's
was
lower
here.
than that,
Under
yeah.
Glenn went up there and looked, and we're trying to we tried bird spikes, they won't stick because of the metal and all the other stuff that happens. So, in the design of these awnings, there is a gap down to the metal beams where your starlings are going down there and making nests, so you'll never see them out, but they're down there making nests. So if you go there today, we have sealed them off with wood that we're gonna paint to match the color. We have sealed off those holes in those canopies. In just that amount of time of Glenn getting one canopy done today, the birds have dropped numerous. Like we don't see them hiding under there. So he's gonna work on the other canopy next week, and then we should have no more issues with birds. Thank God. And then and we made it with wood because we didn't want to disturb the structural steel for the awnings. So we put some wood up there that we can paint and change out when it gets old, or if we need to do any replacements to make it easy.
Nice
Thank
problem
you.
solving, thank you.
Got it?
And I spoke to Principal Mazurek today. She indicated that once your work's done, they were gonna go through, power wash all the droppings, scrape any gum, and have that
And we're gonna do
looking-
that before the 29th.
Yes, which is, I believe, an intermediate school, kind of an open house
Correct.
orientation.
Oh, great.
Well, thank you.
Finished the natatorium.
Sure, Chris does an awesome job doing the natatorium.
Okay, on to the natatorium. We hit a milestone, completed the undergrounds finally, so the bowl of spaghetti is in the ground, as I call it. A lot of utilities underground for that pool. Steel is at 30%, bar joists are coming in 2 weeks, and that'll take about 3 weeks to, it's a week to install, 2 weeks to detail. That's where you are gonna see steel for quite a bit, but you also see the masonry going up as well, so. Mason and steel contractor are playing well. On the inside, we're pouring, east stairs are done. We're working on the west stairs to reach up to the mezzanine, and start getting the hard pumping. So slabs are getting poured, a lot of concrete, a lot of masonry. The core, as we call it, is going well.
So on track then for the completion date? Next
of
August.
26.
A year from now-ish.
Chillers.
We should order the lockers now.
I think they have, actually, I think they have.
Lockers. And other lead items. Chillers, good or bad news?
You want me to do that one?
I got it. Okay. Chillers are August 4th. We're gonna fire one up. And then we're gonna fire the other one up.
Kind
Kind of.
Why is there trepidation in this?
No, just to see the lead lag system and the controls and.
So what really brought this on is, probably a week ago, we had a hard time keeping these chillers running. I was here all the time just trying to reset them. So I sat down with Chris and Mark and was like, we need to get one of the new ones here before school starts. And correct me on some of the dates, they weren't slated to get installed until October.
Right.
Because of, after cooling season. We worked with Arctic Carrier to really push a new one in to make sure the building would be comfortable for students and staff. So we got a startup of August 4th, which is months ahead of what we should have had.
Is that only one going to carry too much of a load? And are we gonna be beating that one up before they both come in?
Not with this technology. The chiller plant will know, okay, this is too much, I'm only gonna do what I can do.
So the chillers we have now are 250 cubic air feet per chiller. The ones we are new are 450. Usually when you order 2 chillers, one chiller should be able to handle your building. Your second chiller is just backup just on really hot days. So one chiller should handle the building, and since the natatorium won't be up and running,
That's it.
we should be good to handle. But we're gonna run one as we change one out. So the building will always have support for
Thanks for mentioning the natatorium, because that's what the other one will do. And good news, the top of the chiller is not going to hang out of the courtyard.
Good news for Your phone's her.
It does, 'cause they gave me the answer.
And they
I
extended,
wanna make sure no one's shimming anything under there.
and they extended the fan heights of the new chillers too. If you look side by side, the old chillers are kind of sunk in, and the fans on these are a little higher, just so to push the air up higher where you won't see them, but they got a stronger propeller in them to get the air out.
Yeah, but all joking aside, like on the lockers or any long lead items, you know, since COVID hit or whatever, this component, that component's missing, we've all been kind of trained like, hey, hit the long lead items. And you just never know from year to year what this product is gonna be 8 to 9 weeks when it was, or, you know, months where it was 2 to 3 weeks before. You just never know in that supply chain, so.
Where are the lockers coming from?
As far as like state, say Delta is the fabricator, but that I don't know. I can find out. That's in a nutshell.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, yeah. Yes, that will be done.
I have a Lake Prairie update.
Come on up.
You forgot about Lake Prairie, didn't you? You finished
What's
it, you
remaining
were
at
done.
Lake Prairie?
So I've been working with Austin and Indiana Water to
Oh,
get the sewer out there. So we've done a meeting with Austin, Indiana Water, to get, so they're proposing probably late spring, early summer that they'll have both lines connected by then,
For next
So-
year.
next year.
Oh, wow, I
So-
thought they were supposed to be started this year.
They were going to, but they ran into some hiccups with some railroad permits and stuff
Right.
that they're working through. And then it gives Indiana Water time to understand how our well hooks in for where they'll hook into the water. And then it gives us time to work with IDEM to shut down the mount systems and what we need to do that. So we're working on that also.
I think I appreciated you working with the town on the connection.
Yes.
That was nice, and I think that we're piggybacking on one of their contractors.
We are, yeah, we're piggybacking off one of theirs, and then we're gonna change some things that we know we need to get done that will save us some money in the future, and also things that will make their plans go a little easier. So, for instance, the curb at Lake Prairie that we've been wanting on that sidewalk, by drop off, for them to run the water lines where they're at, they have to take off the curb on the other side and have it slated to pour back. And so I'm working with them, well, maybe we don't need to pour that back because maybe we can move snow that way, and then you can pour the new curb on the other side.
Great.
So, I just wanna give that.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Since you opened that can of worms, septic,
Yes.
help with the septic.
We're working with Austin on that, cause they're already the prime on that.
Yeah, the tanks, the pumps, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Got it.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, everybody. Feel free to call anytime. Thank you.
All right, next up, business operations reports.
So included in the packet and up on screen here, I have the items that we're working on through the summer. So everyone says, oh, it's summer, you've got the summer off, right? It's budget season. So included in there is the budget calendar that just outlines our meetings that we will have for our budget and what's taken place so far. So January to July, we've been doing some data pulling, working with key departments to find out what buses are being replaced, what Jason's got on his list as far as, larger items and where they fit. We've had many conversations about bonding and what goes in bonds and what doesn't, so that all pulls together. It also includes staffing conversations that really heat up in the summer that become a big project for the business office as far as onboarding, offboarding, and just planning for the next year. So far, most recently, I attended a workshop by the DOE. I have a Department of Local Government Finance virtual meeting coming up as well. We have a school board work session on that Friday there, July 18th, where we're going to be discussing some Senate Bill 1 topics amongst other stuff that'll help me gather some data on where we want to go budget-wise. July 30th, I am hosting a Region 1 virtual meeting for budgeting to work with all the districts in Region 1, Lake, Border, and LaPorte counties are all invited on that call to talk about budget stuff, to talk about their concerns, trends, and challenges that they've got going on. From there, August 25th, I hope to have everything in budget form and release the Form 3, which is the official notice to the public of our anticipated rates and anticipated budgets there. That gets released and that's advertised before the meeting. It's necessary to have it advertised 10 days prior to the meeting, but this is a whole, we've got extra time in there. September 11th will be the public hearing on the board for the budget, and then October 9th will be the adoption. This is a little different than in past years because we've always had those two board meetings where I've been able to do back-to-back in October and have it approved. So we're backing this up quite a bit here and starting much earlier on this, which makes it a little challenging because we're gonna be in the thick of negotiations. We're gonna be a lot of unknowns with the hiring, and it's going to be difficult to have the budget wrapped up in July, August. We usually do it a little later so that we can get all that information. Not impossible, but we'll work
If
on
we
it.
need to move, or if we need to add a second meeting in the month of September or whatever month it works, we can always do that as well.
Let's see how this plays out in the next 2 months and, or next, like, month and a half and see if I can get it, yeah. Yeah, I'd like to stick with it because I'd like to have it sooner rather than later, but I just know it's challenging with a lot of the balls that we have in the air. So those are the key board meetings that I'm going to need a quorum for, is what I'm saying right now. And if we do, have to change things, we've got wiggle room in this schedule because everything needs to be completed by November 10th. So, or November 1st and then, or November 3rd and posted, but November 10th. So that's the first thing. The next thing I wanted to show are some prelim cash flows. What you've got on screen here is the education fund. And I had planned on only presenting up through May, the end of May, but we were able to close out June just in the last 2 days. So that's why the cash flows were not uploaded yet. I left a copy by your seats there. And our cash flows here for, you've got receipts over here on the left-hand side. You've got disbursements or your expenditures in the larger section there. It's broken out all by kind of categories, salaries, fringes, and all other stuff there. You've got your months, so each line across each row is what you'll see is receipts, and then you'll go into expenditures all for January here. You've got a beginning cash balance that is up here in the right-hand side, this $5,589,000 and change. And then you've got your ending cash balance and on the end of January right here, $5,705,000. And you can see how that is. Over on the left-hand side, each month that is in green is posted and complete. The yellow one is just, it's my way of saying caution because we're still closing it out. We haven't posted it yet and items can change. So looking at June, where we are right now, for the month of June, we had $2,796,224.94 in receipts. And sliding all the way over, as far as expenditure, we had $3,059,159.98. Now, that doesn't sound great because, of course, your receipts are less than your expenditures. One of the things in there that's counted as an expenditure under all other right here is that $1 million, 300, you see that? $1 million of that is the transfer from education fund to operations fund. So that's the money that flows from the state that has to go into the education fund that during the budgeting process, we decided $2 million would be able to float the operations fund. So we had to transfer $1 million there. You'll see in the ensuing months here, July through December, that is all estimations that I'm looking at that you'll see. And you'll see that $1 million is down there in the last month as well. It's included down there. So those are the $2 million that we said in the calendar year 2025 that we would transfer from education to operations fund. So in looking at this, we are trending to add to cash balance in education fund about $250,000 at the end of this year, if this all plays out, if my crystal ball is working the way it should here. Now, you're gonna see a different story in operations fund, which means we might want to consider a little more transfer rather than that 2 million to offset the negative that we've got in operations fund. So
What percentage are we at right now with the 2 million?
as at the 2 million, we are at 9%, I think it is 9 or 10%. It's low, and you're supposed to be under 15%.
Okay.
So we're low.
Okay.
It's 9 or 10%,
Okay.
yes. We're on the lower end. We used to be about 6 to 8, and we bumped it up a little bit. So, any questions on education fund? As far as appropriations, we're tracking correct where we should, meaning that the budget that we're approved, we're not overspending, we're pretty much at the 50% level, so we're doing really well. We're not gonna overspend on that. If I switch over to the operations fund, this is where we're gonna see the different story. So same thing, again, you've got your green months that are posted, or June month here. So we have much higher receipts total, $4,441,000. That's because property tax flows in here, and we got our June property tax, which is sitting here for operations fund, $3,421,000, our tax draw. And I'll take a moment right now to give you an update on tax draw. So we did receive that in a timely fashion. Thank you, Lake County, for being consistent on that. We had our overall tax levy of what we're asking for in 2025 is $20,735,000 and change. Our tax draw for June, which is typically about 54% of that total draw, was $11,791,000. So it's a little higher. We got a little higher draw, about 58%, but it's consistent with what we got last year. So people are paying their taxes is the end story, and that's great. That's going on. So people are still, our taxpayers are timely. So again, we've got our revenues there, then we've got our expenditures. This fund is tracking a little negative here, 174,000 in the red, and that's why I'm just gonna caution the board that I might come with a resolution during the budget process and ask to bump that up a little bit, maybe 200,000 from the education fund, which has a surplus, over to here, just so that they're not negative.
What's the leading cause for that?
On here, this is, I couldn't see anything, I mean, fringes are tracking where we were. It is circuit breaker. It's tax loss on circuit breaker, I'd say. It was a little higher than what we anticipated, so it's the circuit breaker effect.
Okay.
Because budget-wise, we're going to come in under what we budgeted. But it is, yes, people are paying their taxes, but circuit breaker is becoming more of an effect here in
This is
our
when we're
district, which is
losing-
the tax loss when people get to their maximum tax amount, and anything above that the schools should have captured doesn't pass through to us. It's just you're at your maximum cap, so the tax caps. I can't really say that any one category is really blown out of proportion here and tracking higher than it should, by anything that would really throw this out of whack.
And there's only so much we can do to anticipate what our loss will be in the circuit breaker. And so this isn't a result of poor budgeting,
No.
it's a result of the unknowns within the circuit breaker and the tax law.
So any questions about cash flows here? So we're working on Form 9, which is our biannual financial report. We have to post this in June and December. It's a huge report. It takes every single individual expenditure in a report, and we have to upload that to the DOE. We have to weed out any issues that we have in the data and fix those, and post it. So this is a very busy time of year in the business office for us to be doing that. I covered tax draw. The other item that I have here to cover that's finance related is discussing the federal fund pause for review that's been going on. You may have heard in the news that there were some federal funds that were due to go to schools July 1st, about $6.8 billion, that have been paused for review to check through it. Those go specifically to Title I Part C, which is a migrant education state grant. We don't receive that money, so that doesn't affect us. There was about $2.2 billion in Title II Part A grant, which is supporting the instruction in our education, and that is for professional development and class size reduction. We use that for professional development, and we do rely on that heavily. Tri-Creek receives about $75,000 to about $81,000 in Title II funds. So those are under review, unknown if we're going to be receiving those.
That's a big deal.
That is a big deal because that is the main place that we do most of our professional development and enrichment for our staff here.
So we're still got that money right now.
Right now, we don't know if we're going to get it or not.
And is this in advance or in arrears?
This is for this upcoming school year.
All right.
Yeah.
So we're not on the hook for any past where they
No,
pay after?
but we've done all the work to apply for the grants. It was all due June 30th, and we submitted everything on time. And then you go through all that work, and now you're waiting, because a lot of that budgeting and stuff that we put in this grant, if we can't fund it, the choice is now, do we not do it, or do we find a spot in education fund? And if so, then what do we cut to make this happen, because this is more important than, whatever.
At least
So-
we get to do that with that in mind, not with just not
Right,
getting the
it's
money.
not like, we've got a
Like some of
bill
the
in
COVID
hand that's
stuff.
already been done.
Reimbursement,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I was thinking of.
Title III Part A, which is English language acquisition, we do get money for that. It's a small amount, $6,000 to $10,000, but still necessary. And then the other one is Title IV Part A. It's for student support and academic enrichment grants. It is one of the most flexible grants out there, I'll say. We get about $25,000 for that. Again, that's necessary items that we would use. So we don't have any direction. I'm hoping or wondering if maybe the DOE will have a statement tomorrow and our updates on Friday about what their plan of attack or what they're hearing. Might come down if there's a end in year where we might find out when this review is over so that we can better plan for items here.
So we're looking at about 110 to 130,000.
Yes.
And it makes it real difficult for us to plan because people who come in and work with our teachers, their calendars are filling up, and
So you can't even book them.
it's hard to make a commitment if we don't know if we can pay for them. And so it's a ripple effect on the problem.
And these are grants that have been around for many years that we have used for these types of items. And sometimes there's contracts that we've signed
That have already been approved
that have been
as well.
multiple years just to get a discounted rate that are still in here that we'll have to honor. So there are things like that. Overall, Indiana's could possibly see if this doesn't, if they use this in some other way and do not send the $6.8 billion nationwide, this is gonna impact Indiana $295 million for Indiana alone, so. And then ours is 110, 130. So I wanted to update the board on that. Moving on to board action items here to review. The main one that I've got on the agenda here is the consideration for student fees for the 25-26 school year. If I could back up in history here a little bit, of course, we did have student fees leading up to the 23-24 school year when House Bill 1001 came about and legislation funded curricular materials at $160 million at the state level and told school districts that you were no longer, you don't have the ability to charge for fees, we're going to fund it with $160 million. School districts and organizations like IASBO, Indiana School Board Association, Principals Association, we voiced our concerns that $160 million was not enough to cover the costs for the entire state for curricular materials. But we were hopeful that they would increase that. So we went into the 23-24 school year without any student fees, and the school and the state funded us at about $151 per student. At that time, the way it shook out for us is that we were about $340,000 short of what we needed to cover our curricular materials. And if I could speak about this legislation came about in April when legislation finishes, and we had to plan that for the next school year. Very similar thing, you have contracts that are signed that you were planning on using these curricular materials, and all of a sudden, we can't just say no thank you on those, we have to honor those contracts. So it was hard to pivot at that moment and cut some of those items that we were reliant on and start weighing in, but we did do some of that trimming of the materials and the items that we were using in classrooms in order to try and meet what we thought was going to be realistic for what the funding would be. Another point to make out is that we were coming off the loss of the referendum at that time too. So we were hit with the double cut there. Couldn't charge for fees. Now you got to fund the part that isn't, and then on top of it, we didn't have the referendum. So we were going through cuts at that time. So the second year, 24-25, we did not charge fees either. And that was funded at the level, since we had less students in Indiana, but we still only had $160 million in funding from the legislation. It actually was about $158 per person, per student, that shook out to as far as funding that we received. That year, we had about a $234,000 shortfall, according to the report that we had to file here, which just shows right here, $234,000 underfunded versus what we received. We received about $500,000 in funding, but we still had $234,000 in costs above that. That's not counting technology. If you throw technology in there, we were about $548,000 underfunded. But since we pay for that out of common school loans and other things like that, I only look at our shortfall here of curricular materials at $234,000. So that went down from $340,000 in loss to $234,000 this year because we trimmed what we were using as curricular materials. We took a look at those multi-year contracts, we negotiated some of those and got out of those contracts, and we reduced some of the supplies. We worked together as a district to decide what we could change about that. So we continue to trim those. So in looking forward, the appropriation hasn't increased as much as we would hope. I'm anticipating a similar amount, about $158 to $160 per student in this school year. But what legislation changed is that they added language in there so that school districts could charge for materials that supplement the curricular process. So if you have a contract, it says right here, it was amended to explicitly allow school corporations and charter schools to assess and collect a reasonable fee for supplies and materials that are not curricular materials and that supplement instruction in a particular course of study. And they give examples. Examples of supplies and materials could be workbooks, not part of the curricular material contract. So if you have a contract for a textbook and a workbook, you can't charge a student that, but if it's an extra workbook supplementing, you could charge for that. Or science fees or art fees, those are examples. So I took a look at our fees that we have and pulled together our lists of everything by grade level, and included in your packet is the recommendation for the supplemental fees. I was not anticipating this to be that small on screen. It always, there. So what you're looking at here is elementary. It's actually K through 8 on here. So kindergarten, a fee of $45. First grade $45 and second grade $45. I have fourth grade at $45 as well. Third grade at $50. When you get up to 5th grade, there's some other extra supplies, and again, everything that's listed here, art, science, world science supplies, band, that's all supplemental here. $65, $65, $66. And then when you get to 7th, 8th grade, it's based on their course selection, but it's anywhere from $63 to $68 there. So we're talking about $45 to $68 fees at the K through 8 level.
So typically, prior to 2 years ago, around about, like, what was that fee?
Kindergarten was in the $160 range, and middle school, I believe, was in the similar $175, $160 range.
So we're still.
Similar around there, yes. So it's very much, it's much lower. It does not include any of the curricular materials, the textbooks or online texts and such in there. At high school, of course, that's a little bit of a different animal here. High school, a lot of choices and a lot of wonderful classes that we have here. There is a general fee by grade level that ranges from $26 to $90 here, or $12 to $90, I guess. 12th grade has $12, 11th grade $90 because the SAT is included in there and PSAT. $30 for 10th grade and $26 for 9th grade. At the high school, I took a look at it. A lot of our courses, our English and ELA courses, don't use a textbook. As far as in classroom, there's no they're not charging to that. They're using their own curriculum that aligns to the state, but they're using, there's readers that they're using, they're novels. And if you just take the $500,000 that we get from the state and divide it by the 3,300 students, and then divided by 7 periods, it's around $23 per period that would cover a textbook. And since they didn't have a textbook, I didn't put any charge on here for those readers. So I took that into account. If art didn't have a textbook, which they don't, they've only got supplies, and they're submitting you $50 worth of supplies that they need to, I backed out $15 to $20 out of that and only put a $30 fee in there. So I was mindful that we're getting money from the state because I'm not looking to turn a profit on this, let's say. We are trying to minimize this as much as we can on taxpayers. Unfortunately, a lot of the higher dollar courses here, of course, are the ones that really provide those hands-on experiences when you're looking at construction trades, auto, welding, of course, is the highest one here. So when we look at Lowell High School, the fees will range anywhere from 30 cents per course to $269 for welding, that's a full year of welding, that's 2 courses, and that's a lot of steel and a lot of protective gear that they're purchasing. So you're getting a welding jacket, a helmet, and gear and all that kind of stuff that's necessary for that. When I looked at it, 15 courses are in the range of $50, over $50 to $269. Only 15 courses. Everything else is under that. So that's not crazy. The average was about $28 when I look at all of them, including that high number for welding. 8 courses are within $68 to $98. That's auto, CNA, medical terminology, and machining in there. 5 courses, 112 to 100, right under the 150 mark, construction trades, some of the welding, and then 2 courses over the 150 to 269, that's 152 and 269 for different types of work-based learning and welding. Other districts are considering this. I did survey other districts, and many districts are looking at this in the region and will be bringing fees to the table in the same fashion here. I also want to state that the free and reduced qualified students will be exempt from this as they were before and won't have to pay for textbooks and fees. They'll be waived. And that was in my consideration. So when looking at this and pulling this information together, I was looking at trying to make up between $150,000 and $200,000, knowing that we're gonna be underfunded by that much. That's what the trend's been showing. So that's what this is based on. And bringing it to you tonight, of course, this backs into registration. So with registration, first week of August, and this, having not had to code fees in our system, it takes a while. It takes us a good week to get all this. When you're looking at 124 courses, I think it is on here, 120 courses that we have to code in. There's a lot of work to get this into the system once the board gives us feedback and if and when we approve it. Are there any questions?
I would say if, I have a comment, if this is something that the board moves forward with approving, we will need to do a district-wide communication.
I was just gonna say, we're not definitely have to push
Why there used to be fees and then 2 years of no fees and now why there are fees again.
Yeah.
That's hard to message, it's hard for people
It
to
is.
understand, but I think we need to do that up front.
Mhm.
I think the second item that we'd like to discuss as well, and later on the agenda, is athletic trainer. Franciscan pulled out their entire athletic training program for all schools. And if schools now have an athletic trainer, you have to pay out of pocket. And so one of our recommendations tonight to the board is to create a Tri-Creek Schools athletic trainer position. We've never had that position because we've always had that third party supplying that service. The third party always provided the salary and benefits, and then we pitched in $10,000 per trainer. Well, now when you look at full-time salary and benefits, that changes the whole landscape. And so right now, athletic fees, I believe, are $50 per kid per sport. And in order for us to pay for an athletic trainer, we really need to contemplate raising that fee to $125 to $150 per kid per sport. So I'm looking for some feedback.
I think when we get to the action items, we'll have an opportunity for some discussion there as we decide to vote on those things. Did you have any more in your update?
I've got two other things on the board agenda, cash change approval, which is a yearly thing.
Mhm.
It's just authorizing us to use the money to be used for gate money and stuff like that. So it's a maintenance item. The other maintenance item that's on there is the public officials bond. On there, we do this yearly where the board approves, it's the State Board of Accounts requirement, the public official bonds and the amounts that are on there. So we updated it with all the new treasurers and everybody in their new positions. And that's it.
All right, updates from curriculum instruction and assessment. Tammy's not here, so
Yes,
do you have anything in
actually,
her place?
She actually prepared a report
Okay.
and I'm happy to give it. So getting away from the dismal financial
Thank you.
conversation, we've got some good news. I have never seen this this number that I'm about to present to you. Lowell High School this past year had a 100% graduation rate for the class of 2025.
Wow.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
it's always
awesome.
been like 99.
I think our percentage was at 97
Seven.
and 98%
Yeah,
and some
it's
change.
97 something.
It's 100%.
That's
So
fantastic.
that is extremely abnormal and reason to celebrate. Every graduate received a diploma. More good news, Lowell High School saw an increase in the number of students who took advanced placement courses and the number of exams taken. This has been a 5-year increase. The number of students who passed with a score of 3 or higher. Now, so the scores can go anywhere from like 1 to the best score being a 5. If you score a 3, you get your college credit. So a 3, 4, or 5 gets you college credit, so you wanna aim for 3 or higher. We increased that here at Lowell High School by 14% over the previous year,
This is AP,
for AP.
nice.
And then Principal Doherty indicated that the signals that we're offering students opportunities to take more rigorous college prep courses, that students feel confident in their ability to demonstrate their understanding. The number of students who earned Indiana College Core technical certificates increased from 8 in 2024 to 19 in 2025, so more than double.
Yeah.
So those are some reasons to celebrate. The now CIA Director, Curriculum Instruction and Assessment Director, Doherty, has done some analysis, and she indicates that following our guiding principles of continuous improvement and focus on solution, we are working with the master schedules at both the intermediate, middle school, and high school levels to increase the amount of time for instruction. So I did mention at the previous board meeting, we're looking to increase intermediate middle school from a 3:15 dismissal to a 3:27. That enables us to block schedule math and English language arts, and it addresses a systems issue on dismissal and bus pickup. At the high school level, looking at those advisory classes going from multiple days a week to just being 1 day a week and increasing the instructional time in classes. So that should help students improve in their instruction. House Enrolled Act 1634 just passed legislation effective July 1st of 2025. Students on iLearn Math who scored above proficient designation are ought to automatically be enrolled in a math honors class. And so the intermediate and middle school principal has been readjusting the kids' schedules this past week to adhere to the law and put them in.
So this is for
Parent-
what grade level?
I learn up through 8th grade. If a child has performed above proficiency on the state exam, they are automatically enrolled into the honors math.
How does that affect elementary?
So they take iLearn in grades 3 and 4. So we don't necessarily offer honors there, but once they hit intermediate at grade 5, there is an honor section.
Okay, so we don't have to make changes at the elementary level.
Parents may opt out if they decide to, and so there will be communications. We would hope the parents would keep their kid in the more rigorous course, because we know that when kids are exposed to higher expectations, they often grow as a result of that. So the ripple effect on that, by that happening up through 8th grade, honors math in 8th grade will become pre-advanced placement algebra instead of just the algebra. And honors geometry will become pre-AP geometry at the high school level. So you'll see the ripple effect take place, because the kids will be more prepared for those higher level courses. So basically, looking ahead in future years, it'd be removing the honors designation and going the AP route to increase the rigor. Upcoming projects for the 25-26 school year. We're working on textbook adoption for English language arts and reading for grades K through 12. We got curriculum mapping going on in English language arts and math, and restructuring of the computer and STEM. I know Mr. Blackman back there is working with CIA Director Doherty and scoping that out. We've made some changes to the middle school programming, specifically 5, 6, 7, and 8. And really excited that Eric Stoll, Jeremy Schuler, Lindsay Doolin are all coming together with a great positive attitude and a collaboration, and they're going to work with Jay and Tammy on overhauling the curriculum. And as a result of this past year, Jay had worked with our Apple consultant and have identified how to improve our basically kindergarten through 8th grade scope and sequence on curriculum and computer skills.
Great.
And then another item to report on the online virtual academy for that we approved to move forward with. We met with Edmentum today as our platform, and some really good things came out of that meeting. Kids will have assigned teachers through Edmentum, licensed through the state of Indiana. They will have 2 online lessons in real time with the teacher per week. And then between the hours of 8 and 4 Central time, they have an on-demand, if they need a teacher, they can get a licensed teacher to support them for that online component. It does come with an additional fee, but for keeping students at the heart of it and for this to be a program success, it's worth the investment. So having said that, the update is Principal Geringer and Assistant Principal Dan Gover are framing that out, and we hope to start enrollment as early as possibly next Tuesday and pushing that out. And then I'll just piggyback on the superintendent report. We will also be highly publicizing our open enrollment because that will coincide with the online as a capability as well. So if you live outside of Tri Creek schools and you want to do the online component, you can enroll open enrollment under us, and then you have access to that. And the other thing I would add on, Dana mentioned bargaining in September. So schools are allowed to pre-bargain, and so we'll be coming together with the union in a couple of weeks to go ahead and get a head start on that. It helps us not only move things along, but it's going to help the budget process. Anything that we can knock out prior to the opening date of September 15th, the sooner the better. And so that's the CIA report as well as the superintendent report.
Oh, you lumped it all together, huh?
Why not?
Took a skip in
Hope
line.
you don't mind me stepping out of line.
Jay doesn't like you cut through like that.
Yeah.
Keep moving, go for it.
All right, Jay, come on up.
So this is a busy time of year for my team, we're getting prepped for the next school year. My team is currently in the process of preparing all of our technology for students, all of our devices, so that includes refreshing our carts at kindergarten and first grade. So all of our students in those grade levels do not take their devices home any longer. We have new iPads coming for students in grades 2, 5, 9, and then for this year only grade 11. We were able to refresh those to get them in line with some additional changes to cases and warranties and all that so that they're in line with our other grade levels. If you recall, I brought some good news last year regarding a grant for security and safety. So our cameras, all of those cameras have come in. Our team has been installing them. We have so far 3 Creeks, Lake Prairie, and our new athletic complex covered. I'm happy to report the cameras look fantastic. There are some incredible features in there that are going to help our safety teams with being able to monitor and ensure that if there's areas that we shouldn't have students in or shouldn't have folks coming into, our folks get real-time reports on those. They'll get texts. They'll know exactly what's going on. So next steps on that will be continuing work. We're looking to move to Oak Hill shortly. Hope to get that done before the end of the summer, and then we will start working on middle school and high school, approximately about 200, 250 cameras. There's a lot there, but we're going to hopefully be working on that throughout the rest of the school year. And then I have been working with the Lake County Sheriff's Department regarding the access that they have to our camera system. So that has been really great as well. They are starting to see our cameras come in, very happy with what they're seeing. Along with that, our door system was also replaced, and we are working through that right now. We took advantage of the summer schedules, and specifically moratorium week last week was helpful for us to get everything in here at the high school. We hope to be able to turn up our elementaries next week. The high school will probably be done shortly after, and the middle school will probably be the last one in roughly about 2 weeks. End of the year reporting just finished up. I was happy to note that Superintendent Anderson and Dana signed off on all of our reports. So we're wrapping up the previous school year. As a part of that, then we get ready for rollover of Skyward to prepare for the new school year. So that includes the fees that we talked about, getting schedules loaded, courses showing up. So that will start hopefully very shortly here. And then that'll be that prep for registration coming at the end of the month. So that is upon us. The only action item I have for you tonight is the disposal of surplus outdated technology equipment. This is typically a yearly item that we bring you as we start to clean up over the summer. These are items that are broken or anything that has outlived its useful life for us. There's quite a few items in there that you'll see, like monitors that have been with us since the middle school initially opened, well over 10 years. We really do try to use everything up as much as possible. We do also try to reach out to our partners at NISAC or other schools if we think there are items that people might be able to utilize. But generally, these are things that Tri-Creek really has no use for at this time. So, any questions?
And people ask us, what do you do all summer?
It's good to get to hear from you and all the systems and processes that you've got in place to keep everything, running. I don't think, especially you're quieter on the meeting, so it's nice to hear all that you've got going on in the background.
We've got a great team that's doing a lot of great work, so thank you.
Good job, thank you. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and go right back here to superintendent report. Is there anything on action items that we did not get to discuss that you need to update us on?
Just the athletic trainers, there's the construction trades. So Dana, I don't know if you want to tag team that.
The construction trades agreement is coming to the board again. This is for our house build. You'll recall last month we reviewed the contract, updated some language, and we had a different partner at that time. That partner isn't able to continue. So we were able to find another partner to go with here, which is Kripe Development and Management, LLC. They have stepped up to the plate to help fund the program in the similar fashion. And we updated the language. The only change to the contract there from previous is that they will not provide a toolbox on site. An actual, I think we had a Connex box out there or a trailer out there for the tools. So we'll purchase one, and we're using the money from the house build last year that we're receiving to purchase that. I've also reached out to our construction partners to ask if there's any donations that they might want to give us in the ways of a tandem trailer that's at least 7 feet tall. 8 feet tall would be better, 16 feet long would be great, and that's what we're looking for, tool storage on site. But other than that, the contract is the same, and we're hoping to continue the great program with another wonderful community sponsorship here.
That's great.
Part of what initiated this was there's some of the factors changed when Brooker was our original partner regarding the lot. Initially, in the first 2 years, there was no upfront cost. Now there's an upfront cost to purchase the lot. That was a factor. Another factor is the first year we built a one-story with a basement walkout. The kids really need, according to our teacher, to really focus on just that one-story home. Where the open lot is in the particular subdivision, it's not, it has an impact on the return on investment, the ability to sell the home, to turn it. And so those were factors, and so that kind of initiated switch over to the CRIPE. They're the developers, and so it's already in their domain to begin with. I think it's important you all know, I did express our appreciation to Mr. Brooker. He's a big supporter of our school system, and he has pledged his continued support and would certainly welcome the opportunity in the future if, the factors came back together.
Well, we certainly are lucky that we have multiple community members looking to be involved and support the program, so that's great. All right, thank you. Board member reports, anybody have one? Any
Nate's not
updates?
here.
Nate's not here, nope. All right, so we've gotten to hear all the updates, what everybody's up to. Moving on to action items. Can I have a motion to open discussions for Lowell High School athletic trainer?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Is there any further questions or discussion regarding the need to create this position?
I would just say if the board approves this position, we will need to raise athletic fees, probably in the $125 to $150 per student per sport.
So it's almost tripling. But I mean, you have to have an athletic trainer at the same time.
And other fees are going up as well.
What's that?
Do you have to have an athletic trainer?
If we didn't, we'd have to hire like EMT services, paramedic services to be on site for various things,
For everything?
for events.
For any athletic events?
That sounds expensive.
I do know kids, they're going to our trainers all the time for ice, for getting taped up, for
I was gonna say, I
doing
don't
their
see how you could have an
exercises, their therapy.
athletic programs without having one.
When I think about at the middle school, like currently, I don't even know if the middle school has an ice machine available. And the protocol there is if a student is significantly, injured enough, they're calling the EMTs. That becomes a cost then for the parents or the school. And can elevate non-emergency things to an emergency level. It also, causes a kid that might not have the proper, like for example, Titus's knee got hit at wrestling practice and just the right spot and it just blew up with water on it, just fluid. He was fine, it didn't hurt, but it looked really crazy and distorted. I was able to talk to the high school trainer and very quickly realized I didn't need to rush to get MRIs and all of these things. And so it's a service that helps, the families save costs in the long run for minor injuries.
Even in rehab, you think of the copay on insurance for a parent to go to where there's kids are doing some of that here. They're getting on the bike, they're doing their exercises.
That's a good point.
Under the supervision of a trainer.
Yeah, Baldo does a lot of rehab with the
He would
kids.
continue to be ours.
He's definitely the candidate for the part-time because he took on the full-time teaching. It enables us to keep him as a trainer, but really to supplement the need for the full-time.
I talked to Patty the other day, and there's some opportunity as well with some of the physical trainers in town to have them coming in during school hours to also supplement with some rehab services for the students on site. So there's a lot of work going on to try to find ways to serve our students and keep this fee down. So we're not sure on that exact number yet. The other thing this fee covers too is busing and some other miscellaneous fees through athletics, which we know that those costs have gone up. And this $50 fee has not changed in
So
many
regardless,
years.
it kind of needs to go.
Yeah, it's been a lot of years since it's gone up, and the cost of fuel and busing services is definitely
Roughing
increased.
fees
Roughing fees is the other one.
have gone through the roof.
I would think so, just because they're having a hard time getting people as it is.
I think that they tripled
I can see that.
I
this year. They
don't
tripled.
quote me on that, but I know it was significant.
Yeah, it was either double or triple this year from what they were, which they were very low. They should have that, so. Any other further discussion related to the Lowell High School athletic trainer position?
What's our competition's athletic fees?
Good
A
question.
competition.
Like other
schools.
Okay, so it's been a while,
Not in referendum schools.
but I wanna think Crown Point's it may have been even more than 150.
It's kind of sport specific for Crown Point. I know football, they're at $350 for the season. So it just depends on the sport, and then I think their athletic departments do have one. I wish Patty would have stuck around.
Yeah, you know what, we should have had that tonight, and we've always looked at that,
In this case, we're not approving an actual amount yet for the student fees.
No,
So we could
correct.
possibly go to a more, like, okay, football, just like, make it, instead of it just being a blanket across it, that's this much, we could go,
Do it by season.
It is by season.
well, even
I mean,
like sport specific, you know, if like a sport, like cross-country,
they're in there. They got IT issues, ankle issues.
no, I meant as far as like all the, you know, there's a lot more, I don't know.
There's athletic training issues, I think, at all.
No, I'm sure that, no athletic training issues. But
Yeah.
Indy, and
as far as the other
Like-
fees going up, you know, the cost, you know what I'm saying, that's
Yeah.
driving that up.
Yeah, I mean, the busing, I think this mostly covers busing. Now we're looping in,
Referees and all
The-
that kind of stuff.
well, no, the referees, that is, I wanna say the referees should be funded more from Gates.
I mean, it all goes in one pot.
Yeah.
You can see, that's why we haven't come to you tonight with what is that dollar amount. There's still a lot more work to be done. And to your point, Andy, I think it's time for an update to go back out and see what the area, just as a comp, I don't think it changes our circumstance. When we compare ourselves with Hanover and Crown Point, Lake Central, they're all referendum passed schools. And it does make a difference.
In this case, we've never had to have an athletic trainer position because it was supplied to us by Franciscan
I think regardless,
Franciscan
we have to have the athletic
program.
trainer.
Their program's been in place since,
For a long
Since I've been
time.
here.
I
yeah,
think the
and
community-
I think
At
it
least
started
15.
about 14 years ago.
yeah.
And it provided a trainer and
We
a
had a
half,
trainer.
and it was about 20 grand is what we spent on the trainer.
In the past, we had a trainer and it was a stipend fee, but we only had one. Now with increased involvement and need, we have a need for two, because it was a burnout. They never got to leave the school. They were here the whole time.
Sure.
So we're
I mean,
looking,
It's like, cause we have like an increase in athletic fees, and then you have an increase in fees for classes.
Right.
And then you're hitting everybody all at once in 1 year. If you have 4 kids in the school, you're looking at what if you wanna be involved in sports and be in the classes you wanna be in, paying $1,200, $1,300 a year instead of $100 or $50, you know? So it's a pretty substantial hit, on a lot of the families that are in the district, so that's just kinda what I'm worried about, 'cause
there's
I
been
know
a
I pay more
2-year
than 50 for the
reprieve.
sports I'm in. I wind up paying more than 50.
Oh, for sure, we pay a significantly
It's 50 for this, it's 200 for a practice pack, it's a fundraiser, car washes, hitting up your relatives for money, JRD, how much money that brings in, all these other things that they're doing, and, maybe they can find some other corners to cut to bring down the athletic fees and chip in, self-sustaining what they're doing with their fundraising money,
Each sport does their own fundraising, and then the other fundraising comes from the Boosters Club. And that covers,
We only allow 2 fundraisers.
and they're only allowed 2 fundraisers per sport.
Is that like a
The
state
boosters,
law?
no, it's just Patty tries to not have it like inundate the community and parents of constantly the kids having to raise money. So the limit is 2. Not all teams do 2. Some are fine with 1, and that's all that they need.
Track doesn't do any.
Boosters, because Boosters covers the uniforms and equipment for the most part, when there's a need. In this case, we are not approving a fee at this time. We are approving the creation of a position so that we can get an athletic trainer hired and working in that role.
I get it, then we're gonna have to figure out how to pay them. We're still gonna put ourselves in that position,
We are.
you know?
Mhm.
And I get it, I mean, you want your kids to be safe, you want them to be healthy.
Yeah.
And so, but,
Almost like put the cart before the horse. Want the position, but not,
yeah,
the position, but not knowing how to pay
well,
for it.
and then you don't wanna show up like, you know, in August and not have anyone, so.
So are we
And
just,
honestly, the candidate pool for trainers, I believe is extremely shallow as well.
Yeah.
We're just paying the one trainer. And then are we paying an assistant too?
Is it, yeah,
There would be, two separate that would both need paid.
which is what we've had. We had Mark as the, and Baldo,
So we've had them the whole time here.
but they're no longer being covered now. We still have the stipend of the 10,000 that we were paying them already on our own.
Mm-hmm.
But now we have to meet,
Oh, I didn't know we had more than one, I thought we just.
we really had
we had Mark,
two.
Yeah.
So we're actually cutting back
we are.
if we approve it. If you don't approve it, we're drastically cutting back.
I mean, I don't know, I think you have to have it, I mean, the way sports are now, I mean, I don't know, it seems like each generation, it's going harder and harder, it's not like even from when I played, it's different.
I'll tell you, we had a game at Maryville and it was a middle school football game and
Not that
and they didn't have a trainer there because he was on the other, with the high school soccer team, I believe.
Mhm.
And midway through the game, around like third quarter, you see a row of about 5 students, football players, go marching in and getting into this ambulance. And you're sitting there as a parent like, whoa, what's happened? What's the problem? Well, nobody knew there was no trainer. The football coach wanted them to be checked for concussions and the little things that happen and occur throughout a football game, because they were a lot bigger, Maryville versus Lowell. And it was very concerning for the parents of like, what happened out there? Is my kid okay? And it was just, that's all they had, and they had to pay for that service to be there to do a concussion evaluation, wrap up a finger that got bent back. And so that comes at a fee as well to the schools, and as a parent, it was unsettling. So if a trainer were there, that would not be the situation.
I remember that game.
What's that?
I said, I remember that game.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, shall we move to vote?
Well,
All in favor of approving the creation of the position for an athletic trainer? Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. All right, number 2, we've kind of already talked this one through, but I need a motion for the approval of the creation of a Lowell High School assistant athletic trainer.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Anybody have any discussion on this? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right, student fees. Can I have a motion to approve student fees for the 25-26 school year?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? I just wanna, again, point out, this is something that we've had a hiatus from for 2 years. I know prior to that, I would hear stories of, high school parents sometimes paying $800, $1,000 for student fees regularly, and it was a burden.
I mean, even when we were in school, I remember my mom saying like, when you sign up kids for school, it's like, especially when they, and, you're in the ag classes, you're in the, shop classes, all stuff, it was expensive.
Yeah, and it was a heavy burden for families, especially with multiple children. Dana, I think you did a really thorough job of carefully considering the weight of each dollar amount for every single course. I know that was a very detailed project over the last couple of weeks. And I know you checked with other surrounding schools as well, and I appreciate the care that you put into that with, our families at mind and this new cost that's coming. Our highest cost is the one of the highest is the welding program. That one's tough, that's our, you know, we have one of the best programs in the state. And our students are coming out of that with a real job-ready skill, that they wouldn't be able to get anywhere else. And so the extra fee comes with some real life benefit for them and a buy-in for them as well. It's not just a class they're taking for fun now, like there's a real purpose to that. So it's a tough fee, but I think that there's worth behind it.
All but one student enrolled in an apprenticeship program from our welding, out of all of our graduates.
Wow.
This past year.
So what do you think's the average that each student, like in the high school, is gonna have to pay?
The high school,
Based on what their enrollment was last year? You know, what would,
it looked like, and I ran the average, it was probably gonna be around $180.
180 on average.
Yeah,
Per
on
student?
average, per student. I ran some low and high examples. So a freshman, low course selection where it's mainly all core courses, biology, social studies, science, algebra, $46.51. On a freshman high, $145, right around there. Sophomore, $50 for a low. High, and this is a person that's taking AP, human geography, brake system, so they're in the auto program, they're taking ceramics too. So I don't know if that person exists, but when I put all that together along with integrated chem phys, $237.
I think it's a little bit easier though as well, when you actually are like using materials and expending
Yes.
things, you know?
You can't take like welding and construction trades, right? You can't take both.
It's pretty unusual. When my son was here, he took auto and welding together.
Uh-huh.
That was his choice, but, it's,
Obviously, if you wanna
yeah.
get that, would be the most expensive way, but.
And it's the 1 year of welding. It
Right,
is
so
1
it's
year
paying
of
for the
welding,
whole
that's
thing.
269. The other years of welding are in the 120, 140 range.
Oh, because they've
It
gotta
is-
get all their equipment.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah, it's the
understandable,
1 year.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, like,
You
I
get,
agree
you
with
have something you're
that's-
leaving with.
Especially if you want
when you look at
something
that fee, you're like,
outside of
I
what
get-
would be required to graduate.
Right.
You know, so something like extra, okay, fees. Have we thought about like a family cap? You know, so that you have larger families or, once they hit a certain amount for their kids, then they're
So,
good.
like
And they're not
Popcorn
looking
does.
at like a $2,200, cause you have 6 kids in your family.
That's, well, you do have the ability to
I know you can
apply
apply
for
for
textbooks, yeah, but if that's, that's there, I don't know,
I think that again is,
yeah.
it's gonna be course choices. There's so much with, the elementaries and middle schools are pretty are a set fee. High school is a whole different beast, with the different choices of courses that you can take. Then that becomes a balance between more money coming out of our funds,
Mhm.
to make up that difference. So,
I hear you. It's gotta come somewhere.
There were some
Yeah.
things that I pulled into the operations fund, you mentioned locks. I took that as an operational cost since they're not using lockers so much and items like that too.
okay. All right, any other further discussion on that? Okay, all in favor of approving, the student fees for the 25-26 school year? Aye,
Aye.
opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes. All right, number 4, disposal of surplus outdated technology equipment. Can I have a motion?
I'll make motion. Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right, number 5, approve cash change banks at Lowell High School for the 25-26 school year. A motion?
Motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Number 6, cash change bank at Lowell Middle School for the 25-26 school year. Can I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Number 7, construction trades agreement between Cripe Development and Management LLC and Tri Creek School Corporation. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Is this like the similar like contract that they have with Berker, kind of the same language as far as like all
Yeah.
that stuff, the one that we looked at last meeting?
Yep.
Yeah, basically everything, the trailer
Except for the
was.
trailer, we removed the trailer
Yeah,
from
we have to
the
get our
account.
own
Yep.
box or something.
Other than that, identical to
Can't-
what you
Yep.
approved before.
Okay.
Change the name.
Yes.
White out.
All right. Any further other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Number 8, approve public official bonds for the positions of District Treasurer, $500,000, District Deputy Treasurer, $250,000, District Financial Services Payroll, $250,000, Accounts Payable Clerk, $250,000, and the 6 positional $25,000 bonds for the Assistant Food Service Director and for each school bookkeeper for the 25-26 school year. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion in a few seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. All right, action consent items, we'll do these all together. I need a motion to approve meeting minutes from Thursday, June 12th, 2025, payroll and claims, and personnel report.
I'll make a motion.
Motion?
I'll second.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Donation consent items, we have 1. Approve various donations totaling $4,235 to help fund the Lowell High School Football RDP Alumni ECA Conference registrations. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Opportunity for public comment not related to action items. All right. All other information, board work session will be closed on Friday, July 18th, 2025 to train school board members with an outside consultant about the performance of the role of the members of public officials. Number 2, online registration opens Thursday, July 24th for returning students and those children who participated in kindergarten roundup. So that's been a busy question I've noticed. So registration opens Thursday, July 24th. Number 3, on-site in-person registration for students who are new to the district and those children who did not participate in kindergarten roundup will take place Tuesday, July 29th, 2025 at each school from noon until 7 p.m. Number 4, the first student day of 2025-26 school year is Wednesday, August 13th. And the next meeting for the Tri Creek School Board of Trustees is scheduled for Thursday, August 14th. Any further questions or discussion from the board?
It's crazy to believe the next meeting school will be in session.
I know. Time
It's too soon.
flies.
It's too soon.
Too soon. All right, meeting adjourned.